Hi everyone, and welcome back. David as a young boy was anointed to be king. We know how he went up and he destroyed Goliath and led the army of Israel against the Philistines. He was then taken into the household of Saul. And you see, Saul's motivation was to keep David in a place where he could control him because he was jealous of him. He recognized the call of God on David's life. And that jealousy grew in Saul to the place where he tried to kill David. And David runs from Saul. And in 1 Samuel 22, we read how he finds refuge in the cave of Adullam. And that word literally means refuge, a place of safety. And his family, his brother and his parents, were drawn to him and came and joined him in the cave. Scripture tells us that all those who were in distress, those who were in debt, those who were discontented, they all came to him. Somehow in the midst of all this adversity, in the midst of all this disappointment, David did not disqualify himself. In the midst of these trials and tribulations, somehow God was still able to use him. In fact, we read in that passage of Scripture that he became the captain over them, anointed of God to lead the people of God. Maybe not in the way we would think, but what we need to realize that in every situation, God is there with us and God will still use us. We must not allow the problems that we've been through, the failures of our life, the situations, the disappointments, to disqualify us. God has a plan and purpose for you, and that's wonderful. We read that David even goes to the king Moab and says, please take care of my family, because I don't know my future. I don't know what God will do for me. The future for David was not clear to him. He wasn't able to just map out and say, well, I know this and I know that. No. Yet in the midst of that, he had a faith and he had a trust that God was still in control, that God's plan has not changed, that God's ways had not changed, and that in all the adversity and difficulty, God still had something good for David. So what happens is that the prophet comes to David and says, you've been here long enough, now it's time to get up and get going. And when David heard the prophet, he was ready. He responded because he understood the ways that God works. Please, don't disqualify yourself, but bring your heart before the Lord today and say, Lord, you've called me, you have a plan, you've begun a work, you will complete it, and I want to be ready for whatever you have for me. God bless.